Okay, my friends, I am going to try to explain the math on what I was talking about my binding, why I made it at 3 inches. When you fold it in half, where do I want to start? I think I want to have, if there's any problem with how you put a binding on, it's going to show up where you're starting and ending. And I'd like for that to be in a no man's zone, which is, you know, this area where I just discussed with you in the last video that I had to mark out how to finish this line of stitching, which is not exactly what the pattern is, but nobody's going to be able to know. And I call it a no man's zone because it's not an area that's right up against any of the featured items. It's the most unlooked at area of the quilt. Your eye is just not going to be drawn to that area. So I'm going to start with this, a little bit of a tail. I don't know, I do 4 inches or so. But if I do, let me do the math on this. When it is a 3-inch piece, you have 24/8. You fold it in half, you have 12/8. Okay, so I'm gonna take, let me get my piece of paper so I don't start doing the math wrong while I'm talking to you. Yeah, I got it in my head. Okay, so if I do a 3/8 of an inch is what I stitch over here. Then when I fold over, I'm doing another 3/8. I'm taking up another 3/8 of an inch of this binding on the front side. So when I fold it over, it will be taking up another 1/8 right there. And that will leave me 5/8 to put on the back, which is a little bit heavier than the front, but I want it to be heavy, and I want to be able to make sure that whenever I come in here and stitch on this side, that I am definitely catching the back of this. So what I really want is when I stitch this down at 3/8, that maybe I am not folding it so tightly up against that stitch line, that maybe it's a loose fold to it, and maybe it's not exactly 3/8. So that's how this is going to work out. And then whenever I get done stitching all this and I fold it over, I am then folding that on the back side. I'll come in from the top and I'll stitch right there, stitching the ditch. And as I'm doing it, I'm eyeing it to make sure that I can't see the original stitch line and that this is going to be covering it up. I think this might be a good way of showing you how to do that. So this shows you, just imagine that slid in here is the quilt sandwich. So when I come in here and I stitch against this fold on this top side, it's going to be catching this bottom part of the binding just by a little bit. And that's why you have to really go slowly and watch that you're catching it, that you don't start, that it doesn't start sliding that way or sliding this way. You should have no problem. You've squared up the edge and cleaned up the edge of your quilt. You should have consistency everywhere. It shouldn't have any problem as long as you go slowly and you're eyeing what you're doing while you're doing it. In other words, peeking it up and peeking underneath there to make sure you can't see any of that original stitch line. Should work out beautifully. I'm going to give it a go now and show you what it looks like. I don't know what my next video is going to be. I don't know.